On the base, new arrivals always drew attention, but her arrival drew whispers. She walked in quietly, carrying nothing but a sealed folder, a calm expression, and a small butterfly tattoo on her wrist. Most thought it was harmless, even childish. Some laughed. But everything changed the moment the SEAL commander saw it, because he recognized it. And recognition, in his world, meant danger. United War presents a story of identity, secrecy, and a past that refuses to stay buried. He observed her from a distance at first, the way she moved with a confidence she didn't show on her face. She blended into the crowd as if she wished to disappear, yet every subtle step she took showed training, discipline, control. Her name on the roster was Lena Carter, civilian analyst, temporary assignment. At least that was what the paperwork said. But paperwork, the commander knew, was just paper. What mattered were the things that weren't written. The base had been restless for weeks. A classified operation had gone wrong overseas, and tensions ran like electric current through the hallways. People whispered about intel breaches, missing assets, and a list of coded symbols found at an abandoned safe house. One of those symbols was a butterfly, a mark tied to a group that officially didn't exist, a mark that was never supposed to be seen again. The story takes place on a cold, windswept naval base, surrounded by barbed wire fences and the constant hum of aircraft. Inside the intelligence building, analysts stared at screens filled with satellite images and coded messages. Outside, operators trained, ran drills, and tried to forget things that no human mind should carry. Lena entered this world quietly, too quietly. During her first briefing, the room was half interested, half amused. A few leaned back in their chairs, whispering comments about the tattoo on her wrist, the butterfly with a broken wing. "She probably thinks it's cute," one joked. "That or she lost a bet," another laughed. She heard them. She ignored them. But the commander, Commander Hale, didn't laugh. He froze mid-step, eyes locked on that small blue marking. To others, it was nothing. To him, it was a signature. The last time he had seen that symbol, it was carved onto a steel case containing intelligence so sensitive it was locked behind biometric vaults. The mission had gone sideways, people had died, and the file associated with the symbol vanished. The narrator follows Hale's thoughts. He had been trained never to show emotion, yet something in him tightened, like a wire pulled too far. He scanned her posture, her eyes, her breathing, her reactions. She had the calm stillness of someone who had seen too much, but said too little. After the briefing, he approached her. "Carter." "Yes, sir?" "Where did you get that tattoo?" She glanced at her wrist as if she had forgotten it was there. "Long story," she replied softly. "Tell it. Maybe another time." Her answer wasn't disrespect. It was something else, something cautious, something rehearsed. He took note. Back in the common area, the teasing continued. The SEALs joked, nudged each other, called her butterfly. But she never reacted. She moved like a shadow, silently absorbing the layout of the base, memorizing faces, exits, camera angles. The more she ignored them, the more they whispered. "Who does she think she is? She won't last a week. What's she even doing here?" But the commander's reaction was different. He requested her file. It arrived blacked out, more redactions than text. That never happened with analysts. That night, while most of the base slept, Hale reviewed old mission archives, footage, documents, classified reports. The butterfly symbol appeared again and again, always connected to covert operations, intelligence leaks, and deep cover assets whose names were erased from history. And then he found it. An old report describing a young operative, Unidentified, known only by a code name, Moth. A specialist in infiltration, a ghost, a missing asset presumed dead. Her signature symbol, a butterfly with a broken wing. Hale leaned back in his chair. His breathing slowed. His chest tightened. The girl with the harmless tattoo wasn't harmless at all. The next morning, Lena found the commander waiting for her at the entrance of the operations building. "You and I need to talk," he said quietly. "Do we?" "Yes." They stepped into a briefing room. He closed the door. "You weren't assigned here," he began. "You walked in on your own. Why?" She stared at him for a long moment, eyes steady. "Because something is coming," she said. "And you're not prepared." "Prepared for what?" She didn't answer with words. She simply rolled up her sleeve. The butterfly tattoo extended farther than anyone had noticed. Its wing patterns hid micro-etchings visible only up close. Hale recognized the code immediately. It wasn't a tattoo. It was a message. And it was a warning. As the commander decoded the symbols etched in her skin, fear flickered, not for himself, but for the entire base. Whatever Lena Carter was, whatever she had been, she hadn't come here by accident. She came because someone was coming after them. And the tattoo they teased was the only clue she could safely carry. Part 1 ends here. A storm is approaching, and she is the only one who knows why.
The room was silent except for the faint hum of the fluorescent lights above. Commander Hale leaned closer, trying to steady his breathing as the meaning of the tattoo finally clicked into place. Lena stood still, arm extended, expression unreadable. She had lived 1,000 miles from fear, and he could see it now. The markings weren't random patterns. They formed a sequence, a coded grid once used only by a covert intelligence cell that operated deep inside hostile territories, a cell so secret that most military personnel didn't know it existed. Hale knew because he had once brushed up against its shadow during a mission that still haunted him. "You're carrying active intel on your skin," he whispered. Lena lowered her sleeve. It was the only safe place. Everything else can be scanned, intercepted, duplicated. Skin can't. He stared at her, trying to understand the scale of what she had walked into. The teasing earlier suddenly felt like the deepest kind of ignorance. Soldiers mocking what they didn't know would soon change the course of their lives. "What does the message say?" he asked. "It says they've already breached your perimeter," she replied calmly. Hale froze. "That's impossible. We run triple-layer surveillance around the base." "Not when the breach comes from someone who knows your blind spots?" She turned away, walking slowly to the window that overlooked the runway. A transport aircraft roared by, causing the glass to vibrate. Lena didn't flinch. "You think this base is secure? You think your systems are impossible to crack? The people coming for you aren't amateurs. They're ghosts, the kind who erase footprints even before they are made." The commander checked the clock. Every second suddenly felt heavier. "Why come here? Why warn us? If you're one of them—" "I'm not one of them. Not anymore." There it was, the slip, the confession she didn't intend to make. Hale caught it instantly. "Not anymore," he repeated. "So you were." Lena closed her eyes for a moment, gathering herself. When she spoke again, her voice softened. "I was recruited young, younger than anyone should be. They trained me to disappear into any environment, to gather intel, to seal my emotions behind walls they built for me." She looked at him. "I left. I ran. And people like them don't forgive betrayal." He leaned back, absorbing the weight of her words. "So the threat isn't to the base. It's to you." "It's to both of us. They don't leave loose ends. And you, Commander Hale, You were involved in the mission that destroyed their last network. He blinked, stunned. That operation was classified beyond classified. Only 3 people knew what actually happened. Lena nodded, and one of them survived. Her meaning settled over him like fog creeping through a valley. Hale felt his pulse throb in his throat. So they're taking revenge? They're eliminating knowledge. Anyone who knows the truth is a target, and you're high on their list. Suddenly the alarm outside blared, a sharp, piercing sound that made both of them snap their heads toward the door. Hale rushed out first. The hallway was filling with personnel scrambling to their stations. "Perimeter sensor breach," someone shouted. "Sector 4 offline," yelled another. "Surveillance feeds just went dark." Lena followed, eyes scanning everything. "They're testing your response time," she said. "This isn't the attack. This is the countdown." Hale led her into the operations center where screens flickered with static and scrambled code. Officers shouted orders, technicians typed frantically, and the room cracked with tension. One screen blinked back to life, a single camera feed. A man stood outside the east fence, unmoving, hooded, faceless. Behind him, barely visible, a symbol was spray painted on the metal. A butterfly, its wings shattered. Hale felt the blood drain from his face. "They're taunting us." "They're sending a message," she corrected. "They're saying I belong to them." Before he could reply, one of the intel officers shouted, "Sir, we've got an unidentified signal piggybacking on our internal comms." The speakers crackled. A distorted voice filled the room, calm and cold. "Return what is ours." Every person in the operations center froze. Lena stepped forward, eyes narrowing. "They think I still carry the archive," she whispered. He turned to her. "Do you?" She looked him dead in the eyes. "Would it matter?" He exhaled sharply, jaw tightening. "Right now, yes." She hesitated. The smallest pause, but enough. Hale understood. She wasn't telling him everything. Not yet. The voice came again through the speakers. "Your time is almost up." Then the screen cut to black. The room erupted in urgent chatter. Hale grabbed Lena's arm, pulling her aside. "Listen to me. You're not walking anywhere alone. You're under full protection." "You can't protect me," she said quietly. "They trained me. They know my every move, and I know theirs." He pulled her into a smaller briefing room as chaos swelled outside. "Tell me everything now." Lena took a slow breath. "There's a file," she began. "A file they believe I stole. It was encoded into my tattoo, but they're wrong." "What do you mean?" "I didn't steal it." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I am the file." He stared at her, stunned. They didn't store information on hard drives. They stored it in people, operatives trained to memorize thousands of lines of data, missions, codes, identities. I was one of them. She met his gaze. "That's why they want me. Not the ink, not the symbol." A pause. "Me." Hale rubbed his temples, trying to think. "If they get you." "They get everything," she finished. "Your missions, your weaknesses, your troop movements, even the operation you buried in the desert 5 years ago." He stiffened. "She knew about that. No one knew." "I told you, I remember everything." A long silence filled the room. Then Hale spoke, voice low and heavy. "So what do they want? To reprogram you?" She shook her head. "No, to erase me." Another alarm rang outside, this one faster, harsher. Hale opened the door just as a young soldier sprinted down the hallway, shouting, "Commander, Sector 6 perimeter has been breached. Multiple hostiles inside the wire." The base was no longer under threat. The base was under attack.
Hale turned to Lena, his jaw set like stone. "This ends now. You stay with me." Her reply was steady, fearless. "I'm not running anymore." As the sirens wailed and the base plunged into lockdown, the narrator closes the chapter with quiet tension. The ghosts of her past had arrived. The men who mocked her tattoo had no idea what storm was walking toward them. And Lena Carter, the woman they teased, was about to become the only chance any of them had to survive what was coming.
The base had descended into chaos. Red lights flashed along every hallway, alarms pulsing with a rhythm that made the walls feel alive. Boots thundered against the concrete floors as operators sprinted to defensive positions. Radios snapped with urgent commands, but half the channels were filled with static, jammed. Commander Hale moved with Lena at his side, both pushing through the crowd toward the armory. Soldiers parted instinctively for Hale, but every passing glance at Lena carried confusion and fear. Somehow, she seemed calmer than all of them. "Sector 6 is compromised," Hale growled into his radio. A burst of static answered him, then silence. "They're inside your comm grid," Lena said. "They'll isolate squads, scramble calls. That's how they operate. Divide, confuse, overwhelm." Hale looked at her sharply. "And how do we stop them?" Her eyes flicked to him. "You don't. You outthink them." They reached the armory. Hale scanned his badge. The heavy doors groaned open. Inside, racks of weapons gleamed under harsh white lights. Lena paused, studying the room with a familiarity she shouldn't have had. "You know where everything is," Hale said quietly. "I know where everything would be." Ghost cells train with universal layouts so they can infiltrate any military stockpile. Another reminder, she wasn't an analyst. She was something else, something dangerous. She moved to the wall and picked up a compact submachine weapon, checking the magazine with practiced precision. Hale didn't stop her. Somehow, he knew she handled a weapon better than half the men on the base. "Are you sure you can fight?" She gave a faint, humorless smile. "Fighting is the only thing they taught me well." Before he could respond, the lights flickered. The floor trembled. A distant explosion shook dust from the ceiling. Hale tensed. "Breach in the motor pool." "That's not an attack. That's a distraction." She turned toward him. "They're coming for us." The first shadow. The hallway outside the armory suddenly fell silent, too silent, the kind of silence that made instincts scream. Hale raised his weapon. Lena didn't move. "Don't look for movement," she murmured. "They freeze between frames." "What?" "Just watch." The corridor lights flickered once more. For the briefest of moments, a fraction too short for an untrained eye, a figure appeared at the far end, hooded, still as stone. Hale blinked. The corridor was empty again. "Fast," he whispered. "Faster than you think. They're testing us." Hale stepped forward, ready to advance. Lena grabbed his arm. "No, that's what they want. They want you separated." Seconds later, a loud clang echoed from behind them, the emergency exit door slamming shut. Hale spun, weapon raised. A voice came through the intercom, calm and cold. "You took what belongs to us." Lena stiffened. Hale shouted, "You're trespassing on U.S. federal property. Stand down." The voice ignored him entirely. "Asset Moth, you will return with us now." Hale's blood went cold. "Moth?" he said, turning to Lena. "That was your code name?" She stared at the floor. "I told you, they gave me a name, not a life." The voice continued.
You know the consequences of disobedience. You know the procedure." Lena clenched her jaw, shaking her head. "They're trying to rattle me." Hale stepped in front of her. "Not going to happen. Not on my base." But she grabbed his wrist sharply. "You don't understand. They don't want a negotiation. They want a reclamation. I'm not a person to them. I'm a container." Her voice trembled for the first time. "And they're here to empty me." The attack begins. The hallway erupted, doors slammed open, shadows darted across the walls, and masked operatives moved with uncanny precision. Not loud, not frantic. Silent. Coordinated. Predatory. These weren't mercenaries. These were ghosts trained the way Lena had been trained. Hale fired a burst down the hall. Lena ducked low, firing short, precise shots. One hostile dropped. Another disappeared into the panel ceiling. A third rolled behind a support pillar, returning fire without even peeking out. Hale realized something chilling. They weren't aiming to kill. They were corralling. For her. "Fall back," Lena shouted. "They want me pinned." Hale grabbed her arm. "No, we stand together." She hesitated. The fear in her eyes was replaced by something else. Something like hope, buried painfully deep. She nodded once. They moved as one. The safe room that wasn't safe. Hale pulled her into a reinforced operations chamber designed to withstand explosions. The moment the door shut behind them, he activated the manual lock. "We're safe here," he said. Lena shook her head slowly. "No, room is not safe when they've already mapped your base. They know your ventilation shafts, your blind corners, your escape routes. They built their strategy around them." Hale exhaled frustrated. "Then where is safe?" She stared at the wall console for a moment, then pressed her hand against it. A panel slid aside, revealing circuitry. Hale stared. "That panel isn't on any blueprint." They install fail-safes in every facility with high-level intel. Hidden conduits, emergency overrides, backup keys. "How do you know that?" he asked. "I helped design them." The revelation hit like a blow. Lena wasn't just an operative. She had been one of the architects. Hale whispered, "You trained her to break any system." She nodded. "And to build back doors into systems no one else could see." Hale realized the full danger now. If they captured her, every classified structure in multiple countries could collapse like a house of cards. Who they really came for. Hale steadied himself. "Tell me the truth. You said this was about you, but I don't think it is." Lena looked up at him, shock flickering across her face. Hale's voice lowered. "They're not attacking the base. They're not wiping out staff. They're avoiding casualties. They're avoiding witnesses." He stepped closer. "They came for one person. Me." She shook her head. "No, they're here for me." "Are they?" Hale pressed. "Or are they here for what I know?" The room vibrated as another explosion rattled the facility. She whispered, "What would they want with you?" "Because I wasn't supposed to survive that mission," Hale said. "The one you mentioned, the one in the desert." Lena's eyes widened. They had an asset on the inside, a commander they embedded years ago, a sleeper agent, but their agent failed. She took a step back, realization dawning. "You mean—" "Yes." He inhaled slowly. "The agent was supposed to eliminate me." She stared at him. "So you're saying there's still a traitor in this base?" "No," Hale answered. "There's a traitor in this building." As the lights flicker and Boots approach the sealed door, the narrator fades the scene with growing tension. Lena Carter thought she was the ghost being hunted. Commander Hale thought he was the target. But in the end, the darkness wasn't coming for one of them. It was coming for both of them.
A hush settled over the operations tent, broken only by the soft hum of the radios and the distant echo of bombardment outside. The waxy light from the old desk lamp stretched long shadows across the maps as Commander Hale stepped closer to the young woman, the woman everyone had mocked only hours earlier. Ava turned slightly, unsure whether to brace herself or to finally breathe. The butterfly tattoo on her shoulder blade peeked out from beneath her torn uniform sleeve, illuminated like a symbol finally stepping into its purpose. Hale stared at it, really stared, like a man seeing a ghost from a lifetime ago. For a long moment, no one dared speak. Then, Hale exhaled, slow, unsteady, almost reverent. Operator 47B. I never thought I'd see that insignia again. A ripple of confusion swept through the room. Even the usual cocky Marines straightened in their seats. Ava blinked, shock tightening her chest. She had taken one look at the tattoo as nothing more than a rebellious tribute to her mother. She had no idea it once belonged to a covert humanitarian network during the early years of the war. Hale lotioned everyone closer. And that was when he told them. Years ago, long before Ava was deployed, Hale had worked with a classified unit that protected civilians during the earliest Russian advances into eastern Ukraine. The butterfly symbol, small, delicate, almost childish, was once the mark used by local women who risked everything to smuggle information, children, and wounded citizens across enemy lines. They were called the Butterflies of Donbass. Only 13 members existed. 12 had been confirmed killed. The 13th had vanished without a trace. Hale swallowed hard as he looked at Ava again. That tattoo belonged to your mother, didn't it? He asked. Ava felt her heart break and swell all at once. Her throat tightened. She nodded. My mother never told me everything. Just that she helped people, and that this butterfly meant hope. The tent fell silent again, but a different kind of silence. Not disbelief, not mockery, not arrogance. Respect. Slow, heavy, earned respect. The mission no one expected her to lead. Hale placed both palms on the map table and pulled the newest intel toward them. Russia's covert supply convoy, the same one Ava had warned them about in Part 3, had just changed course, exactly as she predicted they would. She didn't need algorithms, satellite time, or layers of bureaucracy. She understood human movement, the underground tunnels, the refugee patterns, the rhythms of survival. The very same instincts that had kept the butterflies alive now lived in her. Hale stepped aside. All right, Lieutenant. This is your operation now. Lead. No one objected. Not after what they had just learned. Ava slowly approached the table, her fingers tracing the red lines marking enemy routes. She took a deep breath, focused, and began outlining a new plan. One that avoided predictable NATO strategies, one that ignored digital intelligence errors, one that relied purely on human understanding, the same way her mother once had. As she spoke, the soldiers watched her transform. Every minute grew her confidence. Every sentence carried purpose. The soldiers who had mocked her now scribbled down her instructions like students absorbing the lesson of a lifetime. She finished. The room was still. Hale nodded once. Sharp, decisive. You heard her. Move. The night the butterflies struck back. Hours later, under the cloak of darkness, the operation unfolded exactly as Ava predicted. The Russian convoy cut through a valley road, unaware that 2 flanking SEAL teams had already taken position at the ridge above. Ava monitored everything from the forward observation post, adjusting routes in real time through radio whispers. No panic, no hesitation. Her voice was calm, almost eerily calm. When the convoy reached the choke point, Hale gave the command. Execute. The hillside erupted. Precision strikes took out the lead and tail vehicles simultaneously. Dismounted Russian troops scrambled, but the SEAL units were already on the ground. The engagement was fast, surgical, overwhelming. Within minutes, the convoy was neutralized, and the critical weapon systems inside it were secured. Ava watched from the ridge, chest tight with emotion. Not because of the success, but because she realized something. This was the same valley her mother once smuggled refugees through. The same valley the butterflies had died protecting. A cold wind swept across the hillside, brushing against her shoulder, right where the butterfly tattoo rested. Almost like a hand, almost like a memory, almost like her mother whispering, "You did it." The moment the commander saluted, dawn crept over the horizon as the teams returned to base. Soldiers cheered. Some clapped Ava on the back. Some simply looked at her differently. Not as a rookie, not as a joke, not as a girl with a cute tattoo, but as the strategist who turned the tide. Commander Hale approached her, his face solemn, his eyes brighter than before. Without a word, he stood in front of her and saluted. A full, formal military salute. The kind given only to those whose actions change lives. Ava inhaled sharply, her eyes stinging. She returned the salute, her hand steady, despite the emotions crashing inside her. When Hale finally lowered his arm, he leaned in. "You didn't just honor your mother tonight. You continued her mission." Ava smiled a small, trembling smile. "I think she's proud," she whispered. Hale nodded. "We all are." And so, in a war filled with chaos, destruction, and impossible decisions, a single butterfly tattoo, mocked, misunderstood, dismissed, became the symbol that turned soldiers into believers, plans into victories, and a young officer into the legacy her mother once dreamed of. In war, not every hero carries a rifle. Some carry a memory, some carry a purpose, and some carry a butterfly.